Greetings, sunshines and sunnies. It is I, Queen J Lotus, King Sun Kiss, coming at y'all right quick, right fast, certainly, for some brief general messages from this phase of weather events, okay? Because it was so many like mix, and I'm not talking about the messages here, I'm talking about the messages of the forecast and what actually turned out to be. Some areas it was terrible, some areas it was like non-existent, some areas it was seesawing here and there, you know, all over the place, off and on, may have dropped some snow and then snow immediately wrapped up, or whatever what have you. So that's why I wanted to do a general consensus of messages on the weather events. Okay, so whether it was a storm, whether it was just a little bloop bloop, little poop boop boop boop, you know what I'm saying, a little sprinkle dinkle, little dilly dally, we're gonna get the messages for it. What I already know and sense, before we even get into the specificity of the cards, is that the storm and the term storm, as it is, and as I'm going to be using the terminology, it's not just the weather, but it's also dealing with emotions, also dealing with, the energy, the spiritual of it all. So some of you or many of you may notice that, or may have noticed that throughout the duration and the build up and the after effects of it all, and probably even still now, there's been a lot of emotional overwhelm, emotional overflow, emotional turmoil, fights, bickering, really little crabby type, chip on your shoulder, cold shoulder type of behavior, type of disposition, bad mood, depressive energy, easily irritated, overstimulated, fed the fuck up, burnt out, frostbitten, all that. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into the specificities of these cards, because all of that what I just described and gave the examples of is also tied to there being a lot of messages about an emotional storm, a necessary emotional, energetic, spiritual storm that has had to happen and that is having to happen, as a form of purification, is what I'm hearing. Much like a lot of the messages that have been coming through lately and other readings that I've been doing have been talking about the purification elements of fire, remembering that fire also purifies. Also remembering that while we see them in storms, and there can be a lot of inconveniences and stuff that come with storms, bad weather, rain, sleet, snow, and things of that nature, they are also often necessary. Whether it's the earth rehabilitating itself, or whether it's Mother Nature trying to evoke things out of us, okay, to get us to purify ourselves as she purifies the earth. Now, I ain't gonna waste no more time. I'm gonna go ahead and get right into the specificities of these cards. Now, for this first picture, I'm gonna say the first picture is the whole layout. It's all the cards that came out in general. On the top row, we're dealing with the messages in themselves, the general messages in themselves from the weather events. And on the bottom, those three cards at the bottom are representing clarity, confirmation, and reaffirmation. All right? All right. So the cards we're working with here on the top row, the tarot cards we're using are from the Sun and Moon Tarot, okay? All of that aligns with the weather. We're getting the duality of it all. And I have a card from the Ancient Geometric Oracle, and we have a card from the Past Life Oracle. And the clarification and reaffirmation and confirmation cards down at the bottom are from the Rebel Oracle. So I'm gonna take it piece by piece, but for this particular phase here, I'm gonna let you know what we got. So, first card going from the left of them, it is the King of Swords in reverse. The second tarot card that we have in the middle is the Five of Cups, sideways with the head to the left. The third tarot card that we have over to the right of them is the Seven of Wands. It is right side up. The ancient geometric oracle card that we have is the second card from the left. It's Conception in reverse. Past life oracle we have is transportation. And at the bottom for the clarification, reaffirmation, and confirmation, we have vulnerability is hot as fuck in reverse. Then we have stop sleeping so damn much. It's right side up. And we have stop talking in reverse. Now we really about to get on into the cricks and crannies of it all. And boom, TikTok, we starting right out the gate with the King of Swords in reverse and the Conception card in reverse. Now, the King of Swords came out first, but Spirit has guided me to read out the Conception card first. What you'll also notice is that I have a representation of both of the cards right side up, but be clear, they came out in reverse. So I like to put them there also right side up so that you can see them as they are. And it's also like a, like, look up, Marlon, say cheese. Like, look up in inspiration and aspiration type shit. So even though it came out in reverse, don't be discouraged because the right side up energy is still there. You just got to look up in inspiration. All right. All right. So I'm going to read out the conception card. Conception, it's got the number 16 at the top. You put the 1 and the 6 together, you got 7. All right. Lucky number 7. 7 is a number of luck, a number of karma. It's also a number of milestones, accomplishments, celebrations. Okay. Now with the 1 there, new beginnings, independence, self-love, self-care, virgin energy, and that's virgin in the sense of oneness, wholeness, feeling totally secure in your own self that you don't need nobody else. You're not like panging or pining for anyone else or any other attachment to anything. You may welcome it, you see it all as a bonus, but you are enough for yourself, okay? Not to be confused with egotistical narcissism. We're talking about a divine sense of oneness, wholeness, okay? Fulfillment of self type shit. The number 6 is a number of recognition, reflection, as well as community, specifically community that supports you with a lot of words of affirmation and praise and things of that nature. The frequency of conception invites us to bring our consciousness to our origin, the place where everything in creation begins. It helps us to remember the infinite potential and possibilities of this space and what we can manifest through our own focused awareness and intention. Again, that tapped directly into what I was speaking on about the virgin energy that was coming through with the number 1. Okay. Now, because this card came out in reverse, all right, messages from these weather events is giving that the storms, be it the storm of the weather that hit or the storm of the energy, the emotions, the spirit, your spirit and or the spirit of people around you, also pay close attention to any animals that may surround you or approach you or that you may have as well. Because, honey, it's a frequency of deprivation as is concerned ownership over self, all the way up and down to giving yourself recognition, self-recognition, self-praise, self-applause, self-embracing. Okay, so this is a call to action to start pouring more into yourself as it concerns getting more awareness about, are you functioning in a sense of ownership over yourself, or are you a slave to something or someone or some organization, some corporate establishment or something of the sort? Okay. I recently did and posted a monologue called no More Apologies. There's also a channel musical message attached to that as well. I'll see about putting the links in the comments. But the poem No More Apologies by Lady in Blue from For Colored Girls is channeling through. In the original play for Colored Girls, she's Lady in Blue. But in the movie, she's Lady in Red. Okay, so just want to make that clarification. Whichever one resonates most with you, okay, you take the meat and spit out the bone. If you feel more like the Lady in Blue version, go with that. If you feel more like the Lady in Red version, go with that. But I feel like the Lady in Blue energy is more so what's channeling through here, especially being the fact that both of these cards are predominantly blue, as well as the how I chose the filter on this particular layout, the blue and gray filter that you see up there, honestly, is from just seeing which filter highlight those cards the most, and that's the one that highlight those cards the most. It was the it's the cyan shade of blue specifically. Okay, but yeah, you just take the meat, spit out the bone, whichever one resonates with you the most. Lady in Red in the movie version is Janet Jackson's character, in case you needed some extra clarity. You doing the bending? That's her. Okay, and that's also the monologue where she says that. But that line, also you doing the bending, and that aspect is not in the Lady in Blue version of the monologue. So that's just important to note. All of that said and all of that to say, the message that's coming through here and the reason why that poem is channeling through, because again, remember when you're saying about this being referencing to the potential of you needed to check and see if you are or have been or at risk of becoming a slave to something or someone. Don't just think about this in the huge obvious senses. You can also be a slave to apologies. And in my unpacking of the monologue and my annotations and analysis of the monologue, I picked up this frequency of like, someone, a person Lady in Blue specifically having been a slave to apologies, where because someone said, I'm sorry, now you feel like it's your role, it's your duty, it's your obligation to now just stuff all of your feelings down, act like nothing happened, and just continue to fawn over them and adorn them and give them back access to you and give them everything that you have and just commit to the same old shit that you've been committing to, for them to commit to the same old shit that they've been committing to and show you the same old fucking person that you always knew. Okay, so amongst that, you can be a slave to apologies, but you can also be a slave to compliments. You can be a slave to gifts. You can be a slave to adornment. Okay, you can be a slave to people sweet talking you. Okay, they done did something that's totally unacceptable. Much like a man, who may be abusive and then he want to turn around and come back with the gifts and the baby, baby, please, and he's sorry and he crying and all this other fucking foolishness. And it's like, that's all well and great, but don't be a slave to his apologies. Don't be a slave to his guilt. Don't be a slave to his gifts. Don't be a slave to his tears. Okay? Because every time you become a slave to something of the sort, and this doesn't mean forgiveness, but it's about balance and not overplaying your role. Because when you overplay your role, you sell your soul. Bars. And no pun intended. Because when you overplay your role and sell your soul, often you end up behind bars, one way or another, whether it's literal bars or spiritual, energetic bars, imprisoning yourself to a dynamic or to an idea or to a belief system that don't serve you. And that segues us perfectly to the King of Wands in reverse, and it makes sense why Spirit wanted me to start with the Conception card as opposed to the King of Swords card, even though it's the one that came out first. It's because we ain't even have to spend that much time on this King of Swords. Because the King of Swords is just further elaborating the energies of like false leadership, false accountability, people being manipulative with lies, but also people being manipulative with the truth, being manipulative with the sun and the moon, being manipulative with the light and the darkness, the smoke and the mirrors, and you needing to be tapped in from the rooter to the tutor. Okay, making sure that you are taking ownership over yourself, ownership over your sanitization, ownership over your hygiene, ownership over your finances, ownership over your well-being, ownership over your healing, ownership over your lifestyle, and not waiting for anyone to give you permission to have ownership over yourself. Autonomy, not waiting. And this is coming up as we get to like the actual essence of like the weather and the pitfalls of the weather. It's bringing up certain people's pitfalls from the weather. Okay, power outages, damage done to your property, your merchandise, your losing things that you own, your yard, like whatever, what have you, however it's hitting, it's fucking up your money. You got to pay for something on the back end, or you lost money because you wasn't able to go to work. So now that's interfering with your ability to pay for certain things that you need and desire. And Spirit is acknowledging with compassion how frustrating that is in the reality of your situation. And what they want to say is, and they're bringing up the aspect of how people will use warmth, or like even how Spirit, the universe, Mother Earth, uses heat to wake people up, uses the sun to wake people up and get people going. But a purpose of this storm and this iciness, this freakish cold, is also and has also been used to wake people up. Much like, now it didn't work for me, but for certain people, this is why certain schools and workplaces keep it cold in the building. It's to keep people alert, but it doesn't work for everybody. Okay, it doesn't work for everybody. And that's also what Spirit is acknowledging, that this needed to happen for the people who are not awakened by heat, and or it's just a time and a place where now you needed to be awakened by the freakish cold. You needed to be awakened by some freakish weather coming in and causing a disturbance and making it impossible for you to be a slave to whatever it is that you've been being a slave to. And so now it's calling to action to have to like make peace with that, do some reevaluation with yourself, and call upon your natural frequency of wealth, your natural frequency of conception. And this is coming from releasing yourself from self-neglect. Okay? Releasing yourself from seeking saviors and liberating yourself upon ownership over yourself. Call your ownership back over yourself. Call your divine virgin energy back over yourself. And that's it on those two cards, and it's perfectly segueing us over into the next card. But don't fret, because they always end up piggybacking off of each other one way or another. Okay? Alright, so the next card that we have here is the Five of Cups, and it is sideways with the head to the left. The card is labeled disappointments. The number 5 is the number of drastic change, family, balance, and it is also a number of bodily wholeness. I'll say that again, bodily wholeness. Okay, so wholeness in the sense of your physicality, your body specifically, such as humans. No tea, no shade. I'm not trying to be ableist or anything, but just like the quote unquote standard 5 point system. And I feel like even if you were born without like hands or feet or anything, you still have that 5 point star formality about yourself, such as the tips of your feet or the tips of your legs or the tips of whatever you got that, where your legs would be or whatever. Those are points, and the tips of your arms or whatever you got, tips of your hands are also other points, and the top of your head is another point. And I put like a picture representation up there so you can see. So yeah. So this is going more into elaborating on losses. So it's elaborating further on the previous messages from the previous cards. And what it's coming up to say here is that through these weather events, for a lot of you and or some of you, again, storm is paralleling with also the emotional and spiritual state. So even if you didn't get the most snow and ice and damage and all of that shit, you may have experienced a lot of emotional overwhelm, static, irritation, one way or another, even if it was just the people around you. This is also tapping into loss of objects, loss of things, loss of money. Like, for instance, like I said, if you couldn't go to work or if you couldn't make certain money moves like you usually do, that, hit your pockets up. Also, if you did end up leaving the house and getting caught up in the storm or getting caught up in the effects of the storm or whatever, and you end up messing up something on your car, or you end up losing something, or breakups happened, severance of friendships happened, or anything of the sort, whatever falls in the category of loss, which can also include someone going to jail and or someone going to prison. Okay, so just keep that in mind as well if that's something that applies to you. All right, so also it's bringing up old losses or past losses. So the isolation, the stillness, or maybe even just the irritation of things being out of your control. Because essentially, when things like this happen, it puts us out of control of a lot of things that we are usually feeling so much control and power over. And again, that's another thing that you could also be a slave to. You could be a slave to control, even if you are the one in control. Because if you're a slave to control, power, always holding the reins, then it's ego driven. And so what I'm picking up here is managers, business owners, corporate elites, things of that nature, but also parents, particularly moms, I'm picking up on, and also picking up on people who you may not have realized it until now, until these events, that you feel like you got a lot of power over having control over the daily routine. So take it however it applies, but like however you're in control of conducting a routine, even if it's over yourself. Like, let's say you just moved into your own space, or you've been in your first space of your own for a good minute. So you've gotten a real good routine, real good stable routine, real good happy routine, and a real good zest and spark over being able to wake up when you want, be as loud as you want, be as quiet as you want, be as ducked off as you want, be as whatever you are and want to be and need to be, when and how you want. Walking around naked how you want. The song by Ari Lennox, New Apartment, is channeling through. So yeah, like having that liberation. And it's also given like if you work from home and or you just now have a business of your own. So a plethora of these could, multiple of the scenarios that I gave could apply to each individual, right? But overall, feeling this authority over the ownership, feeling this power, this joy, this zest, this confidence over the ownership that you've had over being able to control your daily routine. Okay? But this weather event got in the way of it. Even if it's like you're a mom and you're used to, okay, I get up, I get the kids up, I get them ready, I pick up their clothes, I send them on off, I tell them when to be at the stop, when to get on, where and how to go. You know what I'm saying? And then they come home, you get them right then. You done your homework. Like, there are a series of obligatory things that are in a manner that make it easy for you to conduct the day. But if the kids ain't in school, you don't have all of these obligatory things to hold over their head to say, you can't do this, you can't do that. Besides, maybe you can't go outside because it's dangerous, or we can't go here because it'll be dangerous or something of the sort. So this causes you to be off of your routine. This causes you to feel lost. This that's causes you to feel overwhelmed and like control and power is being taken from you because now you don't have, okay, you got to get up and get it and do this and da 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 because you got to be at school and now you got to do your homework and now you got to da 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 da. Now you have to be creative about how you're going to conduct the day, maintain your peace, and facilitate, in essence, an environment of peace and balance with your kids and or with the people around you. And so again, you can apply that also to like if you're living in a situation where you have to live with other people and usually, let's say usually they have to go to work. But because of the weather and all of that, they were stuck at home. They were stuck at home with you. So usually they at work, you at home, or they out doing whatever it is that they doing and you at home and you able to just do whatever, what have you as you may, da 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 da. But now, because of the weather, they at home and they being irritated. So now you got to get creative, if you will, and how you gonna maintain your peace and all of that. And maybe you didn't do such a good job. You know, for some of you, maybe it was still overwhelming and it just gave you more indication that you need your own space. You need your own ownership. And granted, honey, I totally can relate to this aspect. You've been known you need your own space. You need money. You need the resources. You need the avenues. You need the roads to open up. And that's frustrating as fuck, especially, you know, when you feel like the universe and everybody else is just constantly just making it harder on you, making it harder on you, making it harder and saying, stand up, making it harder and saying, swim against the tide, making the tide stronger and saying, keep swimming against the tide, just keep going, just keep looking up, just keep being positive, just keep being optimistic and da 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 da. But that's the reason why this card came out and it's sideways with the head left. Because it's giving, again, balance. You need to allow yourself. There's a card, it's not present here, but it flipped out. And it says, get your ugly cry on. You know it, you need it. Let that shit go. And that's what this energy is giving, that a lot of this happening. That's what the Five of Cups is coming through, like channeling, that this weather situation, these storms happen to force you to get your ugly cry on so that you can release that baggage, because that's a part of why there's been resource blockages, money blockages, things of that nature, because you've been internally blocked and stopped up with a bunch of tears and residual pain and anger and anguish and resentment that needs to be released. So again, this is the cup suit. I'm not encouraging alcoholism. What I am saying is there is a frequency here of do what you need to do so that you can get over this hurdle. Okay? So if you, whatever you need to do to get your tears jerked up out of there, do what you need to do. Okay? But protect yourself at all times. I love us for real. Okay? So a general consensus of this card is letting it go. And that brings up the channel song that is the channel song for this entire reading. Okay? The messages that Mother Earth, Mother Gaia sent us as, you know, the overall musical message of this layout, which is Goodbye by Monet, Victoria Monet. My mind was about to combine her name with Janelle Monet. It was going to be Victor Janelle Monet, Victoria. It was going to be a whole mess that came out of my mouth, honey. But nothing is a coincidence, and as been channeling throughout this whole reading, as above, so below. Okay, Victoria Monet, that song in particular has like a cool, laid back, jazzy, yet sad, you know, loss type of vibe and energy and messaging of it. But you are allowing yourself to make peace with the fact that you got to say goodbye. Okay, it's sad, but you're gonna be all right, because you're gonna make sure that you be all right by tending to yourself and making sure that you love yourself enough to leave if you have to cry if you need to. Okay, and if other folks is crying if they need to, some of them you may not need to stay and watch them. Do you hear me? Okay. You may just need to release them to God and goodbye. Okay, but I say nothing's a coincidence, because with Janelle Monet coming through in that manner, what she tends to represent is a radical jovialness, like a rebellious type of joy, chipperness, a happy fight for freedom. Very revolutionary in her lyricism and her artistry and the way that she presents herself in her art. But it's not like Chuck D, Public Enemy. I got a letter from the government the other day. It's not roughing stuff with your afro puffs. It's very zip on a tightrope, zip on a tightrope. Electric lady. It's very wanna be queen. Am I a Santa with my skirt on the ground? But we eat wings and throw them bones on the ground. Even if you edit me, the booty don't lie. You can take my wings, but I'm still gonna fly. Okay? Okay? Again, nothing's a coincidence. Nothing's a coincidence. Honor yourself from the top to the bottom. Honor your negative emotions by acknowledging them and unpacking them and praying to God to help you divinely direct them. Also, don't forget the tip on a tightrope. Also, that brings the song Channeling Through Letting Go by Janelle Monáe. Ooh, I got a call today from my job up the block. It was my boss to say, you know we like you a lot, but we don't need you, Jane. You daydream too much. Well, hey, I'm glad y'all let me go. Cause with no 9 to 5, it's a brand new day. Brand new, but I'm a party anyway. I feel so alive. Stress just fade away. It's time I live my own life, so I'ma let it go. No stress on my mind, I'm in control. Have a good time, I'm letting go. Hey, okay? Give that song a play. It's one of her oldies, but it's a goodie. It's a goodie. And so to wrap it up there, as the 5 of Cups goes, acknowledge them 3 cups that turned over, okay? Again, cry if you need to. Allow yourself to mourn. But don't let that distract you. Don't become a slave to the mourning process. You can take that mourning as in grieving or mourning as in good morning, okay? Them parallels hitting up. Don't become a slave to the mourning process and you end up squandering your other 2 cups. That's still there. That's still valuable, fruitful, and multiplicative. Because if you fuck around and become a slave to the grief process, you fuck around and become a slave to dwelling in the disappointment, somebody gonna come and take your cups. And or they'll just sit there and just be forming mold and mildew and mushrooms that ain't got no psychedelic effect. Okay? Okay. Lettingo. Yes. That good duality, you're going to love yourself for it. And that will bring you a sense of wholeness, finding that balance of allowing yourself to unpack those negative emotions and not become a slave to them. Okay? Allowing yourself to acknowledge the truth of your trauma and things that you've been through without becoming a slave to it. Okay? Without even becoming a slave to the rebellion of it. Remember, ego-driven control, ego-driven power makes you a slave also. Even if you holding the reins. That's some deeper things that'll likely come up once I get into the US of A read in itself. But child, we're gonna go ahead and push on through to the next cards. So it's very interesting. I told you nothing's a coincidence. Very interesting that I mentioned mushrooms because as we get into these 2 cards, it's quite trippy. It's quite trippy. So messages from the weather events, again, storm is also paralleling with the internal being of it all. Okay? So, again, with transportation, and this is from the past life oracle deck, so we're dealing with past life things goings on here. And with me saying that, I just heard history repeating itself, but this time is different. This time, the veil is lifted. Okay? So, what they're giving me with that is another question that I'm gonna have to ask by the end of this video. I'm gonna hold that thought on that. But yeah, so what's coming up with that is people being taken advantage of when things of this nature happen. It's also bringing up COVID and how the domestic violence, oh my gosh, something is trying to disturb the throat chakra energy of this reading, and it can go straight to hell. Please and thank you. So yeah. During the pandemic and the domestic violence rates and such went up because people were basically forced to have to be confined in spaces with the people who were abusing them. And so it was just getting worse and worse and worse. Also, people taking advantage of people in deprived situations due to the circumstances. So that's something to be on the lookout for. There's some type of warning for some of you. Something of this sort has already happened. You've already had someone or some people come up to you offering you help and it don't feel right. So take this right here as a sign and a signal. Do your best vetting and follow your intuition for real. And so with that being said too, is the direction that's coming up here from, I heard the Most High. I was going to say Mother Earth, but what channel through was the Most High. So the Most High is calling us to astral project. Did y'all hear how my voice changed when I started saying that? That was not intentional. Honey. Nothing's a coincidence, but everything feels very light and powerful in here. So don't fret. But yeah, dog, the Most High is calling us to astral project, and they're giving us this as a key to free yourself, ourselves, from whatever the imprisoning circumstance is. So, like had come up before, for some of you, I am picking up that it's a job. It's a job of some sort. It's definitely a relationship of some sort for some of you. But for others of you, it's a living situation. And the relationship and the living situation can be interchangeable. So, of course, take the meat, spit out the bone. But yeah, I'm picking up a lot of living situations in particular. And again, the storm caused transportation issues. So either someone messed up their car or something got messed up on their car. Because, like, even just it being freakishly cold can fuck up your car, especially depending on what kind of car you have and if it's not parked in the garage and shit like that, or if you try to start it and it could just glitch the fuck out because it's super duper cold and you started it, or if you overwork the air conditioner too fast in the car and it's freakishly cold, or if you pull out or hit the gas too hard and prominent because it's cold as fuck. But yeah, all of that. So it's giving whatever, however it is that this storm, be it internal or the weather, has been keeping you in prison. And this may sound crazy to some of y'all, but it's the divine delusion that you need. Because what it is not even delusion. It's you calling back the ownership over yourself. And it's like, this is how they're presenting it to me. It's like praying to your higher self. Instead of, okay, yeah. Your higher self is not going to come down to you. You have to rise up to your higher self. So you're needing to astral project to your higher self to see who you really are and to get the key that you need to transport out of whatever is keeping you imprisoned. Y'all, I had to let God use me on that one, honey, because I was like, what? I literally had to step on up out the way and, So yes, this transportation card, and as it is in correlation with the Seven of Wands card, the Seven of Wands is talking about working too physically hard. And this is calling back to the Five of Cups card, that five energy that was talking about our bodies. Okay, so someone is a slave to their own body. Someone or some people have become a slave to their own body. Okay, and the Seven of Wands energy is also, it's no tea, no shade at all, but often stripper energy comes through the Wands cards. It's usually the Princess of Wands, which is also the Page of Wands, and or the Ace of Wands that usually gives stripper energy. But the Seven of Wands and how it's coming through here is giving off stripper energy. And you may be a stripper, or you may like to do pole dance work. Okay, and if you do pole dance work, or if you are a stripper, it's a need to bring the spirituality into it. It's a need to integrate your spiritual beliefs and your spiritual practices in that, because I'm hearing there's a way that you can astral project while you are aerial. There's a way that you can astral project in the midst of dance in general, but also specifically dance that allows you to elevate in the air, like pole work. Also, I'm hearing aerial yoga. So if that's something that you do, or something that you into, or something that you've been thinking about doing and feeling called, you're either needed to get more intentional about it in that way, and or you needed to get more intentional about it because God is about to make a way for you to be able to use that for joy and for healing. Okay, let me like kind of rephrase that so I can make sure I'm saying it appropriately. For those of you who don't do pole work, you don't have a pole, you don't do aerial yoga, you don't have the equipment, but you want to and you've been feeling called to, it's about to be a way made for you. Okay, again, being called to astral project. You don't need that stuff to astral project. You can astral project all on your own. You don't even really need any binaural beats to do it, but binaural beats and such can help. Okay, so do your own research, go fishing, baby, on the best ways to do that for you. But all of that to say, a way is being made, but we're being called to trampoline to our higher self, to transport to our higher self. We've been waiting and working and working and working, and this is where the Seven of Wands energy comes in again, working and working and working and working and doing the groundwork, and that's great. Give yourself credit for that, give yourself props for that. But again, this is where it's like becoming a slave to the body, becoming a slave to the physicality of it all. Okay, becoming a slave to like our own abilities, because we're like, I'm doing. But We're not just physicality, we're also spirit. Our spirit has several different layers, several different dimensions, several different, our bodies are a reflection of the earth, are an extension and recreation of the earth and the universe and all of that as a whole, of God and all of that. Okay? So that's why that message is coming in. Astral project. Astral project to your higher self to get the key to unlock the prison that you've been in and free yourself. And so that, I'm gonna be real with you. I'm seeing so fucking much of like good stuff resulting in like different individual scenarios of each individual finding themselves and finding the different parts of themselves and the stuff that they're really interested in, the answers to their questions, the direction, the clear direction to where you're supposed to be and what fulfills you and how to get there and where the money is coming from, and even just people literally in the astral projections pushing the boulders out of the way and loads of money just falling out. I'm seeing like so many different scenarios, but of course I can't call them all out, you know, in this moment, but just know if you've been steadily getting messages about, you got to take this leap of faith, it's going to be a decision that you have to make. You got to take this leap of faith, it's going to be a decision that you have to make, and da da da. The astral projection is a part of that leap of faith and a part of that decision. And the reason why it's been so foggy and so confusing on what the fuck spirit has been meaning about, oh, you got to take a leap of faith, you got to take the leap of faith, you got to make a decision. And you've been like, I've been taking leaps of faith, I've been making decisions, I've been leaping, what the fuck, you want me to be a frog? I'm telling you, I feel you. But the leap is leaping to your higher self. Through the astral projection, okay? This is a redirection to spirit. It's a whole lot of other different layers and cricks and crannies and all of that to it. But hey, spirit said what they said in this moment. Take it. And again, it may feel confusing. It seems like, huh, what? Like that's the fucking end all be all. Is there every motherfucking thing else I do? Well, now all I gotta do is just fucking astral project. Yeah, that's why it's called a leap of faith. That's why it's called faith. You gotta look up the definition of faith, right? So now, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into the specificities of the clarifications and reaffirmations and elaborations. Now, these won't be as in-depth, of course, because they are elaborations and confirmations and reaffirmations amongst. This is like a little segments where I kind of put it on the table for y'all to be able to use y'all's own sense of discernment, exercise your own third eye, all of that good stuff. And making it visible, you know, enough for you all to be able to meditate on it yourself, okay? But we have here, stop sleeping so damn much. And with that, I'm instantly hearing TD Jakes, wake up out of your sleep, wake up. Okay, so this is both being careful about being a slave to sleep, being a slave to avoidance. Some people use sleep to avoid. Some people use sleep to procrastinate. Okay, so there's a part of it amongst stop sleeping so damn much. Stop sleeping on yourself. Stop sleeping on the possibilities. Stop sleeping on God. Stop sleeping on the optimisms and the things that you have to be grateful for. Because sometimes the universe, God, Mother Earth, they'll remove certain superficialities to make it easier for you to see the simplicities that are also wealthy that you've been asleep on. Even if it's just internal. Your spirit is wealthy. And think about that. If our spirits are extensions of God, and think about the fact that we all have both God and the devil in us. So why so often are we just oh so willing and happily, gleefully ready to just identify with the devil in us and think that our spirits are just so poor because we're flawed? Does that sound fair? No, it does. No, it does not. I don't know. Someone said, well, life isn't fair. No, yes, it can be. Life is what we make it. Life is what we make it. Again, don't be a slave to the devil in you. Divinely direct your being. Take your power back over yourself. Take your ownership back over yourself. Don't let people tell you, oh, life's not fair, so you just got to accept it. No, life is what you make it. Life is what you make it. Just like those two statements exist. So you have a choice between which one you want to accept as your belief system. Fuck who you is, who you want to be. Now, we have vulnerability is hot as fuck in reverse. The reason why that I'm hearing that this is coming up in reverse is because a lot of you are being called to go more internal, to be a bit less of an open book about certain things. It's called the fifth house. Fifth house represents creativity, romance, and self-expression. It's not a coincidence. So move in silence when it comes to your introspection and your strategies as it concerns things surrounding romance, creativity, self-expression, and pleasure. Show more than you tell, but also be very discerning about what you are showing. Okay? Be clear about what things are representing to you and what you represent to other people and things. Then we have stop talking in reverse. Now, these messages might sound a bit contradicting, right? As we just left, vulnerability is hot as fuck in reverse. And then we have stop talking in reverse. So stop talking in reverse. If stop talking is in reverse, that means talk, essentially, right? It means you're being called to action to talk. So a thing about this is use your voice, just don't use it for stupid shit. Don't speak just because you want to say something. Speak because you have something to say. All right? And so this is also bringing up, like, if you've been feeling like, I'm so tired of hearing stupid shit. I'm so tired of people just being loud and dumb. I'm so tired of being surrounded by fucking idiots. It's time for you to get louder. If you're the competent one, if you're the intelligent one, you know where the intelligence lies. Okay? Where the intelligence resides. Okay? And that's not a coincidence. Where the money resides. Where the money resides. Okay, it's money coming. It's money up there. All right? If you know it, tell it. Say it. Say what you need to say. But again, fifth house, be very strategic and intentional and heartfelt and mindful, well-rounded, balanced in what you're telling and what you're showing, okay? As well as time and place. I'm also picking up on some people getting back to journaling more, getting back to doing poetry, getting back to writing lyrics, songs, things of that nature. I'm also seeing some of you used to have a love language or even maybe a defense language, a defense method, if you will, of writing letters. So again, it can go one or both ways, where you had a love language or you had a defense language of writing letters. You real good at writing letters that move people one way or another. It either brings the best out of them or it evokes justice. Okay, I'm hearing per my last email. And so that's also attached to the stop talking card, as it is in reverse. Y'all are going to be getting back into that letter writing gift, and that's also a part of your key. So with that too is bringing back up those messages about astral projection. So figure out how you can apply those messages of astral projection to your gift of letter writing. Now, honey, I got a little bonus question that I'm going to ask and see if we can get some answers to real quick, real fast. All right, for the bonus question. And this part here going to be real short and sweet right here. So for these two cards, I asked, was there any governmental weather machine type of influence over the recent weather events? The storms, the ice storm, the snow, the ice, all of that. Was it any governmental influence, weather machine influence, man-made influence over the situation? And we got two straight up no's here. Two straight up nizzos. All right. So, according to spirit, according to the cards, we can rest our minds assured that it ain't, or at least it wasn't, the government doing the trickery dickory dot with no weather machine. Now, as we get into me asking about, was it purely Mother Nature, it gets a little more tricky. And that's where I had to, honey, just tune in, right? So check it. First question I ask as we get to this particular part of this segment is, was it all purely Mother Nature? We got a yes and we got a no. And if you notice, both of these cards that came out have nature on them. Which also lets me know and gives that the no is still a yes somehow. Okay, but we're going to get to the bottom of why there's a no here at all. Because if it ain't the government, then honey, who is it? If you can't go to Bella No Chase, I mean, where can you go? So here I asked, was there any type of human manipulation going on one way or another? Is it human involvement? Do some other humans somewhere, in one way or another, some other corporation or something of the sort, okay, run by humans, that's been tampering with the weather? Is there any man-made involvement? All right, so here we got yes, no, maybe so. We got a kind of something like that, and it's really an emphasis on something like that. Okay. So yeah, and me asking, Was it any type of man-made activity, interaction, manipulation, interference? We got a something like that. So I had to go ahead and ask. Now we're gonna go from the upper left-hand corner of them. I asked, does it have to do with the emotions of people? Does it have to do with, the human emotions and, any depressions and things of that nature? Anything having to do with people's energies and emotions having an effect on the weather? So we got to know. So then I asked that same question, but as it concerns animals, does it have anything to do with how the animals are feeling? Okay, near, far, in your car, okay, your pet, or at the vet. Does it have anything to do with the animals? And we gotta know. That's over to the upper right of them. So then I had to ask, does it have anything to do with any spiritual workers or anybody doing any weather castings, such as spell castings, doing any rituals or anything on the weather, on the elements of it all? And we gotta know for that too with the bottom card. So at this point, I'm like, ¿Qué colores? Excusez-moi. What you mean? So, honey, I had to go ahead and let spirit use me and direct me on over to that good old moon tarot. Okay, I ended up not using it on the front end, but they say we're gonna go ahead and use them on the back end. Boom, TikTok. Now this is just me showing my work a little taste. So, as that had my flappers gasted, I had to tap into the moon tarot and ask baby for some clarification, like, what's going on? What is you trying to say to me? Where is you trying to lead me? Okay? So, what Spirit gave to us here is the Four of Wands in reverse. Now, with this card coming out and the Four of Wands in reverse, is particularly in this particular tarot deck, it's giving breaking free out of a prison. So, that's the thing about using different decks. They can end up having, some different and or slightly different meanings when it comes to the individual cards and such. So the Four of Wands is usually a celebratory card when it's right side up. But in this deck, that's not always the case. Hence, moon. Right? So in this deck, with it being in reverse, and particularly to what I'm asking about and the clarity that I'm asking for, it goes back to those messages about imprisonment. So, again, to clarify, the Four of Wands in this deck in reverse more often means breaking free of some sort of prison, stepping outside of the box, coming out of the box. Okay, so that's referencing a lot of those messages that came up before about imprisonment and being a slave to things. This is also giving all of us by way of me. So they're telling me to think outside the box. But that message of telling me to think outside the box is also a paralleling message for the collective. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that at that and go to the next card that came out, which is the Knight of Swords. So this is very witty, strategic, warrior energy, but not of the fire kind, of the light-weighted kind, if that makes sense. With that, I'm hearing feathered. Interesting. I'm hearing feathered serpent, which brings up Quetzalcoatl. I think I'm saying that right. It's the feathered serpent. It's the Aztec feathered serpent. I think I'm saying that right. It's the god of creativity and the calendar. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So yeah, there is that. And I know you're probably like, okay, what the fuck that mean? Okay, let me cook. Okay, so then we have the Knight of Pentacles here. And again, remembering to think outside the box here. That is not a coin. And I'm not gonna lie and act like I know exactly what it is, because I don't. But what I am starting to hear is, it's got the whole world in his hands. Got the whole world in his hands. As well as disc. I'm hearing disc. Like in this sense, according to what I'm channeling on and what I'm asking and what this reading is about, that's not a coin. So taking it back to again those messages about the frequency of imprisonment and being a slave to things and people. So this card is bringing up about like being a slave to money. And altogether, I'm hearing giving too much energy to things that don't matter, giving too much credit to people and things who don't matter and or that don't matter. So what's coming up specifically is money and the government here, giving the government too much credit, giving money too much energy, giving the government too much energy. I'm hearing this song from Fighting Temptations. Calling on all God's children, time to come home. If you want to be delivered, time to come home. I've been rescued by the Savior. Yes, okay, so they telling me to leave it at that for now as I get into the nitty gritty of what all of this finally led me to ask. Is it other beings that have similar traits to humans, that are alike humans, that live on this earth like humans, but are not humans, that be tampering with the weather, that have been tampering with the weather, that tampered with the weather? And look at what we got there. We got a good old yes at the bottom of them. And I am going to read that one off as it says, yes, glowing results, clarity, seeing the whole picture. That is important to note as the Four of Wands in reverse was talking about coming outside of the box. Chill. So you know it's going to be a follow-up video on this here subject. Because baby, wet, but it ain't that surprising to me because I honestly been picking up on stuff like that lately, and I've been seeing a lot of stuff lately, not just lately, but like literally real prominent since like the summer of last year. I've been seeing and channeling and picking up on things of that nature. We are not alone. I also want to point your attention to certain similarities about the imagery of the cards that are present here. I ain't gonna say too much on it, but I want you to let your mind, body, and soul work on it. Okay? Just look at some of the similarities of the shapes, certain figures, you know, how it make you feel, what you perceive, what you picking up, what's being put down. You feel me? But I see a lot of similarities in the card that came out as yes with the cards particularly that are on the side of it. What I will point out specifically is the circular figures going on, including the fireworks in the sky, the man holding something in his hand, if that's a man, right? But the man holding something in his hand, the mountain figures like in the background. On the Knight of Pentacles, it's more round figures, but on the Knight of Swords, it's more triangular. So you see, yeah, you see some parallels and similarities and things going on amongst the cards. But I believe it's about that time where I remind y'all, you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. You teach a man a fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. Y'all go fishing, baby. And with all that being said, y'all, if I do say so myself, honey, I have milked this cow dry. And I am thoroughly appreciative for the exchange of vibes. And if you're feeling synchronized, please do me a divine design and like, share, and subscribe so that you can be one of the first to be back through these queenly quotas for the next time. And be sure to bless that comment section with your questions and conversations. And as always, I bid you in all ways light, love, healing, and liberation. Emphasis on liberation. Mwah.